progress.
Yeah, excuse that madness.
Right. I don't think you have to draw attention to it
Well, I do have to draw attention because every time it happens, I get disgruntled.
Goodness, there's a couple of trigger words I can think of. Jo, thank you for joining us. This is my celebrity ambassador, coach from WW, Jo Wright. Meet Jojo Sutherland.
Hello.
Hi, it's nice to meet you.
A fellow Joe. The fellow Joe.
Yes, there's lots of us and we're all fabulous.
Yes, indeed.
Some more fabulous than others.
Now, I need to ask Jo very quickly how she's managing to cope with you.
She seems to be doing fine.
I have to say, it's 8 o'clock every Monday morning. It is a way to start the week.
Wow.
I can assure you. But I think because it is first thing on a Monday morning, we're both a bit like trying to cope with being awake.
Yeah.
So I think we're both quite like, let's just do this, and we're calm and we get on, don't we?
Yeah, absolutely. I think we got on very well.
And then because you now won't be suffering the excesses of a boozy weekend because you are on this new journey, then the Monday morning is positive.
I never suffered from. We've discussed this before, Jo. I mean, I've never suffered from hangovers in my life.
Irritating.
That's for amateurs. And the whole thing about WW is that because you're kind of keeping yourself right, that you're still going to drink and all that kind of stuff.
I do like the fact that WW do not restrict your intake. It's just
they don't endorse you drinking litres of wine from Costco, but
no one does. I
think what they are saying is, if you like a wine, that's not the end of the world. Because that's one thing. I mean, the reason that this all came about was through Lorraine Kelly. Lorraine's been quite open about the fact she likes the wine as well. You know, we're both red wine gals, and it's just about knowing when to put down that 9th bottle.
Well, I did tell her when I saw her the other day about your new find, your apparel spritz.
Oh.
And it kind of saved you this last couple of weeks, isn't it?
Yes, because normally I would have been, double gins is fine. I'm going to make a radical statement, and I'm over Fever Tree tonic. Yeah, I am, and I'll tell you for why, because you have to point it. Whereas if you do a Schweppes Slimline, you don't have to point it. Whereas with Fever Tree, because they don't do diet, there's a couple of points in it, and I'm done. Done. I mean, I'm glad they're helping malaria, obviously, and I'm not throwing out the stuff that I've still got in the house. Well, they work in partnership with malaria charities, which I think is a good thing. But no, when I realised, I was like, 3 points, a double gins, 4 points, 7 points. I could have that for 4. So basically, I can have 2 double gins for the price of one with it. And that's the thing as well. The point thing just teaches you to barter with yourself.
Yeah, it's like a currency, isn't it?
Yes.
I can have the gin, but actually, if I do go for this option of the Schweppes, then
I can have more of the gin.
I can have more of the gin. But before, you wouldn't have even thought of that, would you?
No. Because you would have just had all the gin, all the Fever Tree, all the cheese, all the wine, and then the pizza.
But I think it is that sort of ingrained thought process. I certainly still have it, that any kind of losing weight, diet or anything.
You have to starve yourself.
You have to starve yourself, and you have to go without and live without the things that you like. And I think that's where people always fall down, because they're not like the lovely things. And so when you've been talking about WW, it is that thing of going, you haven't been, you're just minimizing how much. It's not that you've had to cut out anything. Really.
There is no real difference as far as I can see. So I follow a few personal trainers online, and they're really fond of either food diaries, calorie tracking, MyFitnessPal. This is points, but it's all the same thing. That the reason you got bigger was because you weren't paying attention. So by whatever means you are bringing yourself back down, then do what works for you. And it's interesting because I was speaking to Susie, because Jo inherited me through Susie, and we were speaking about there's another really, really big diet company, and Susie diet's the wrong word, but eating plan or whatever, and she said, I really don't like the other company's lexicon, because whereas you have points here, you have sins on this. Why would any food be a sin? Well, yeah, exactly. Guess you don't sue. But why would anything be a sin? What's this?
Yes,
good
wording.
foods, bad foods, naughty, or I'm being good or I'm being not. It's like ridiculous. What the reason that you ended up a heffalump was because you took your eye off the, you took your eye off the road.
That's a big focus as a WW coach, is trying to get members to understand that there's no good or bad food. Food is food.
Yeah.
We don't label food, but it's how much of a certain food you have, what food you pair with other foods, what's your nutrition like. You can go and have fun. You can enjoy the foods that you love, but just not every single day. It's kind of like, and like you said, it's like you bartering yourself. Well, if I'm going out Saturday, then on Sunday I'm going to get back on track and I'm going to have things from my 0 point list. So it's a way that you can take control of your eating. And the guilt's all taken away. There's no good or bad food.
I think it's interesting because I've not seen you in person for a few weeks. And I mean, again, I've always said to Bruce, and everybody has their own personal sort of feeling of if they're too large or whatever. And I know that Bruce felt that he was too large, but I've never viewed him like that because, I just don't see him in that way. However, when you got into the car today, I was like, I really can see a difference. And particularly in your face.
Yes.
And
the face, definitely. When we got on Zoom on Monday, yesterday, I was like, you could just suddenly, it was just, you could really see the difference.
You could see that I had one.
face, yeah.
you can see this difference in you, but even you said, you brought it up first and went, look, I look different in the video call.
But the funny thing is, because this is being videoed and the lighting here, I'm sure I've done something wrong in the previous 3 lives. I honestly,
it does look like it is the death of light for you.
I really feel as though I'm like kind of Bible John, who was a serial killer here in the East End of Glasgow, and I'm being interviewed by Brenda Blethyn for whatever that Vera thing was. But I just couldn't, in the beginning, I couldn't look at I'm struggling just now just because it's so badly lit. I've got it down in my spare room, but I couldn't, I felt I was always just kind of talking to you, if you see what I mean. I couldn't look at myself.
Yeah.
And you found that kind of difficult, but not difficult, but you were quite open about the fact that you were pained by the fact that I just couldn't look at myself.
I know. I was quite shocked because there's this larger-than-life character, let's put it out there, with loads of personality, and it's like, boom, you've just hit the video call, and then we take it right back, and I say, what's your why? Why are you here? And you said, right now, I can't even look at myself. And that is an extremely powerful thing to hear from somebody like you. And you said, I felt like this for a long time, and I just want it to change.
Yeah.
It's just a very powerful thing.
Yeah, because I suppose I realised over various things that I was kind of in lockdown and all that kind of stuff, just hidden away and didn't want to be seen and all that kind of, and they would moan, the pair of them would moan because I wouldn't get photos taken, largely because I always knew they would come out and I would look ridiculous. Like, I'm going to send you those. They're not nudes, by the way, but it is me in Aberdeen. Oh God, could you imagine? But no, there's a series of 4 where I'm in my pants in Aberdeen, in a good hotel, I might add, not just wandering around butt naked in the street looking for steps, but I look as though I'm wearing a fat suit. It's disgusting, like really.
But it's interesting as well, isn't it? Because, you are larger than life and you are such great personality and you're such good fun. I think a lot of people would be very surprised to hear that you struggle or feel vulnerable when you are of a certain weight, because people just assume, he's happy, he's fine, and and so by default, other people think, I think it's really brave of you to admit that it makes you feel bad about yourself.
Oh my God! But it's over and above bad, and I discussed this with you as well, Jo. You felt guilty because cost of living crisis and people not being able to eat easily in some cases. And I just seemed to be wandering around with my mouth like the open end of a water flume, tilted up, waiting for anything to be rammed down my throat. And
enough of your sex life.
Well, please. I mean, I would have to say, for those that are worried about horizontal refreshment, I never had a drought, fat or thin. I'm just put it out there. We were discussing that in the car, and thanks, because my niece listens to this. Yes. So that's another awkward conversation to have. Hi, what did you have? Dyslexia. But it is that thing that you felt guilty, you felt disgust, and I think that's the thing. It's the shame. It's the absolute shame. And the one thing that I didn't mind doing, and this is really big of me, is going to my work. because I knew I was in charge of that situation and I knew no one would dare mention it unless I mentioned it or unless someone was going to be really stupid and then, they would have seen what gay violence was like. But it is the fact that I didn't have any, but I just didn't want to be in guys' company, in people's company. I didn't want to see friends or any of that kind of stuff.
But that work thing makes sense to me because you say, like, that was one thing you'd said to me as well. You were quite adamant about the control thing. I just want to get the control back in my life. So when you think about work, you're in control of that. So that makes you feel better. But when it comes to outside of work and the way you feel, you didn't feel in control. And that's something that really came across to me. You said, I don't feel in control of anything and I needed to bring that control back. Do you feel like you have now with how far we've come?
A bit, yeah. I mean, still a long way to go. I mean, that's us going into the fourth stone sort of thing. We had a weigh in. Well, I'd lost more than because I didn't take scales with me to London. And do you know that was really liberating as well? Not doing
a week. That was a learning curve, wasn't it? That was a bit of a learning curve.
And then I thought I'd lost like about 3 pounds, and I'd lost just under a stone, something like that.
Just over 12 pounds. It's like,
yeah, so because she was like, what number is that? And I'm like, have I got something wrong? And then, because I ran out the room, I went, oh, hang on a minute. And I do always wear shorts. Don't worry, it's not you're going to see me in my pants or whatever. And I ran and I went back on the scale and I was like, no, that's right. So no, I do feel slightly more in control. But it was like when I was filming that pilot thing and they wanted to put me on the end, and I was like, do you have to put me on the end? Because there's people there and all they're going to see is this wall of flesh. Would you mind? And they were like, oh no, we've got to paint you there. And you're like, because that's the thing as well. That's why I don't like photos, because it's never good enough. Could you just move? Could you do this? Could you do that? And it's like, could you take your camera and shove it where the sun don't shine? Because I really don't like you.
And in the profession you've got, that must be a really tricky thing to not like the camera. I mean, how do you get past that? How do you get
just shout, get away from me, and that kind of. But you're a gold member, aren't you?
Yeah.
Not the film, not euphemism.
I was going to say I'm Bond girl.
But you've lost 4 stone and kept it off.
Oh wow! I was just about to ask that if you were a larger lady before.
I used to be, yes. So I got to my goal in 2014. I joined in 2013. Got to my goal in 2014, and I've managed to stay there or thereabouts ever since. Just really embraced it. And as a gold member, I'm perfect at tracking. I look at Bruce and he's like on it, tracking everything. You learn how to fit this into your life and you learn how to do the calculations in your head. And I still have moments. It's like a default setting when life gets stressful. Fall head first into packet biscuits, but I know what to do afterwards now. It doesn't turn into a spiral. So it's life-changing. It is. And I get the confidence thing because I've been really poorly, which is why I gained weight. I was on lots of different meds. And I used to be with a walking stick or used to be in a wheelchair. I was really poorly. So when I got better and I found my confidence, and I think that's what WW gave back to me. It wasn't the dress size or the size, that I was when I stepped on the scale. It was my confidence. And there is no way I could have done a workshop in front of all those members 4 stone heavier. And I used to go to my workshop and sit in the back and I was really quiet, believe it or not. And then once I'd got to my goal, I then thought, I want to help other people do this. This is an amazing feeling. And that's why I became a coach.
And had you been round the houses before in terms of other diets and other ways of trying to lose weight and losing weight and putting it back on? So what?
I had, lots of different things.
And so WW was just a completely different approach that was achievable.
Do you know what it was? Is that I tried by myself, and I hadn't realised, because I do a lot of. I'm one of those people, like, I'm a runner. I like running by myself. I'm not one that.
Well, that's where we part ways.
Do you know what I mean? I've never been like that where I join groups and things like that. So for me, I can do this on my own. But I tried milkshakes. I tried juice diet. I don't even like juice. Why would you even put yourself through that? And then I tried the calorie counting thing. And the calorie counting thing, what I found is got an app. It was brilliant. But I wasn't honest. You could put anything in. And if it's not working, blame the app. But actually, when you look at what I was eating, I didn't understand the eating side of it because there's nobody telling me.
But that is the thing that you say about being honest, because I could Zoom in with you and go, oh yeah, I'm now dangerously underweight. I'm on a drip. I'm actually needing to boost myself up. I knew of someone who had tried WW, and basically they'd gone over their points so many times that they were basically curb crawling of an evening, going around people's doors saying, do you have any extra points I can buy from you? Now, obviously I'm taking the mickey here, but they weren't being honest. And I remember going to a workshop in Edinburgh, and I sat up the back because it wasn't that I was embarrassed or anything like that. I don't know if you've got this from me, Jo. I'm quite an overbearing person, and
noticed.
No. And the thing is, see if I think something that should be going, I'm just like, just let me in. I'll sort it. It's all fine. But I thought, no, this is my thing. And I remember walking in, and the guy went, "It's all women in there," and I went, "Oh, I'm gay. I'm fine." And then there was two larger ladies, because I told you about this, and they were affiliated with another company because their sister doled out the snacks at the other company, which I didn't see why you would have snacks at a weigh-in and all this kind of stuff. And this woman had been listening into our conversation who was an absolute bampot. Anyway, we were sitting down, and there was a woman there going, "Oh, I know you. And I'm like, "No." I said, "Oh yeah, I get that all the time." She went, "From who?" I went, "My mum." And she didn't get it at all. And I thought, that's fine, that's bamboozled her. But this woman who was an absolute Fruit Loop, she went, "Well, do you know what I do? After I've been weighed, I have a big bar of chocolate and 9 gins." And the woman went, "Well, why are you doing that? What's the point of that? And why are you here?" And I thought, it's exactly that. Why would you lie to yourself?
Yeah, just cheating yourself.
If you're trying to change things for the better, why wouldn't you put in what your weight actually was? Because it's exactly that. The only person you're letting down is yourself.
Yeah.
It's so true. And I'd grown up. My mum was that. We mentioned it earlier with the sins, and my mum had always done that, and it had become a problem when I was a kid that she always ate differently to us. So she would always eat things that were different to the family, and that used to cause friction in the family, because it's like, mum's on the diet again. Here we go. So I decided I didn't want to do any of that. But actually, then I saw an advert for WW online, and I thought, you know what? I've never done anything like this. I'm going to go do it. And I didn't know what I expected. But when I walked in, actually, I was like, do you know what? All these people, they feel like I do. Mm-hmm. And people are talking, and I'm not on my own anymore. And so I think that was the shock for me, is that I thought I did everything by myself, and that's how I liked it. But actually being around people and having a coach who then, we're mates now. She's brilliant, Karen. She's my colleague. We get on really well. And it felt like she knew me. Mm-hmm. And it was a bit like, how did she know that about me? But I think as a coach, that's what happens. You get to know people. You get to pick up the cues. And so that I don't have to bare my soul to her. She can pick up from me what I need. And she did. And it changed my life.
So it's like a shared experience, isn't it?
Yeah.
And sort of that sort of mutual understanding. Apart from Bruce, how many people do you coach on a weekly basis?
Oh, God, hundreds now.
Oh, really?
We were face-to-face coaches back before the pandemic. So a workshop was just a workshop where people came, and it's, as I described my experience. And I used to do 9 workshops a week. So it was busy girls. So they're brilliant, loved it. But then we had to very quickly go on to Zoom, like literally overnight. Mm-hmm. We got Zoom training. It was brilliant, and just took that experience and put it on Zoom in the first lockdown, and didn't know how that was going to go. But the members loved it. And I think, again, it was this community of, oh my gosh, the world's gone mad. We're in a pandemic, but we've got each other. So people that would never use technology will suddenly appear. We had the most hilarious things where members were coming in upside down and, turn your camera around, Mary, come on, get it back up. It's hilarious. And so from there, when we opened the workshop, it was just a weird feeling. People didn't know whether I want to go back to a workshop. So WW were like, actually, we're onto something here. This is worked really well. So I became a virtual only coach, where I was just doing all of my Zoom, and we became national. So they made them rather than just being local. So now I host 7 workshops a week with people from all over the country. Wow. I've got 2 face-to-face workshops where I'm back out in the field. So I go and see local members, and then I do personal coaching. So I started personal coaching. I've just seen a Pembroke just before I came on here. Debbie, absolutely fabulous. She just lost 2 stone, and she just run the Great North Run.
Oh, wow.
Just amazing. So we see hundreds of people a week through Zoom, now face-to-face. I mean, the possibilities are endless of people being able to get help.
Why do you think it is the case? Because I do get a lot of this. So what are you going to do when you stop doing WW? What are you going to do? What does it really mean? What's the point? What's this, that, and the next thing? Why do you think it's still the perception, particularly in the United Kingdom, that it's like fat fighters, from Little Britain, where, hi, what have you done this week? Oh, I've eaten some dust. And people think that you're either on shakes or you're on microwave meals. Yeah. And what they don't understand is you get a series of food like, oats, chicken, yogurt, whatever. That's your basics of your plan. And then everything else is stuff that you monitor in terms of, oil, chocolate, whatever. But why do you think it is still that it's a fat club? For some people, why do you think that they still have
like
that?
Alcoholics Anonymous?
No, not like Alcoholics Anonymous at all. But only a thin person would say that. But no, I just mean in terms of the fact that they have a really old-fashioned, like my mum would call it a slimming club. Like she goes, are you still slimming? So what are you not eating? That's the first question.
What you're not eating,
What you're not. See, and I think this goes back from this whole culture. You think about the 70s, the 80s, even into the 90s. This whole, there were many different videos coming out, videos back in the day. Yeah. They were all leaping around in front of the TV. We can't eat this. There was fad diets. The press got involved. And then with social media, people just have this perception that a diet is a diet. Yeah. And I think the way that WW have evolved, they've had to evolve with technology, with nutrition, very, very different to what we were back in the day. And we were a company that used to tell people, way back when, you think we were born in the 1960s. We're going to be 60 years old next year. So you think back in the 60s, right, come on, everyone, you've got to eat your liver. You've got to have, imagine telling people now when they rocked up to WW, you've got to eat liver. Imagine the response we'd get. It'd be horrendous. So I think people haven't, haven't evolved that thought process. But we are now behavioural change coaches. So really, is this about food? Here's a big it's about food, but actually most of it's about your mindset. Exactly what you'd said that first day when you said, I can't look in the mirror and even look at myself. That's not really about food. That the food is helping you to get through that feeling. So it's trying to look at this in a very different way. So we try to change people's their lifestyle, their habits.
Yeah, it's a lifestyle change, isn't it? It's behaviour.
And I think that's how you manage to carry on. And that's for me, you get to your goal. It doesn't stop. Oh, I'm at my goal now. I can carry on as I did before. Mm-hmm. You have to carry on with the behaviours you've learned. And we did a workshop a couple of weeks ago, and it was like the quote we opened with was, the joy is in the journey, which might sound cheesy, but actually it's so true. It's like anything. The journey is the place where you're learning, and then it doesn't stop. Whereas if you've got this goal, this end weight, and then that's where it stops, you're not going to be able to carry on beyond that and be successful.
And I think that'll never change. People always look for a quick fix, don't they? And so those sort of fad diets like the Atkins diet and the 5-2 diet and all these ones that kind of come and go. But I think you're absolutely right, Jo. It's that thing of people go, oh, I do that for a certain amount of time and then I stop and I go back to normal. But it's like if somebody becomes vegetarian, they don't become vegetarian for a certain amount of time and then start eating meat again. So it's... Yeah. Changing.
It's a whole different way of thinking, and we are trying to get that message out there.
But it's also the same way when people, because like you always say to me, if you ever think that you're going to fall into a gatto or all that kind of stuff, and I'm like, no, it'll never be that. It'll probably be, a huge thing of Stilton and 89 bottles of wine. But the fact of the matter is, if for whatever reason you have overindulged, it's a bit like if you've got a chip in the windscreen, you don't pan in the windscreen. You sort the chip. Yeah. And I think that's the thing that I've kind of learned from yourself is just breathe, reevaluate. And also as well, the police aren't going to come and get you because you've had a bag of Space Raiders. That's allowed.
but do you think that is a sort of mental shift? Sometimes that's why people fall off the wagon or whatever, is because they feel if they've got doused themselves in a Black Forest gatto, that everything's out the window and I might as well. It's like me, I'm smoking. So if I stop smoking and then have a cigarette, I could just have one cigarette and go, right, well, you've had a cigarette and stop smoking. But I'm every time go, oh, well, I fucked it.
I mess it up now. I'll just carry on. Yeah. But do you know what? That is an all or nothing kind of mentality, and I think most humans have that within us. Mm-hmm. It's this kind of perfectionism, isn't it? I'm either on it and I'm doing it really well, or I'm not doing it at all. Yeah. And it's trying to find a middle ground that says I don't have to be perfect at this. Mm-hmm. I can make mistakes, but I don't have to be complete rubbish either. There is a middle ground. And I think it's really hard. And even I now, it's hard to not, because we've all got it within us. So I think society places this pressure on us that we've got to be a certain way, but we don't. But do we have to be? Can we be a bit more chilled? And if you do have a difficult, I had a difficult day yesterday. I don't know why, I was tired. So I fell into a toffee crisp, and then that led to a club. And I sat on my workshop this morning with all my members, and I just come out and just said, this is where my day was yesterday. Yeah. And then this morning, it's all about waking up and thinking, do you know what, today's a new day. And so I'll do something different. So I've had my lunch, and that was fine, and I've tracked it and I pointed it. It's all good. And we just carry on. The world's not going to end, because yesterday I had a topic treatment club.
Yeah.
But that's the thing as well. Like, going through this, I mean, I could well put on weight next week. It's not the end of the world. No one is standing, with a gun to my head going, if you don't lose however many pounds a week, then, you're wasting the company's time, you're wasting your own time. And I think you have to be a bit more, forgiving of yourself. And, if a bag of a fish supper's your fancy, go and have the fish supper. Yeah. You can't deny yourself.
No, I know. It is interesting, just that analogy with my sort of smoking addiction, in as much as, do you see food as an addiction, or do you just enjoy it? Because a lot of people do see overeating as an addiction in the same way of alcohol or something.
Yeah, I understand how. I've never thought it was an addiction. I just always thought I was weak-willed. I didn't think I was addicted to food, largely because you need food to live. So I always knew that, for a lot of people that then struggle with an alcohol addiction, they want alcohol out their life. It would be very stupid to take food out my life, because therefore who would feed the dog? Yeah. I don't think, I understand how people, but then the thing is as well, because I know someone who's horrendously overweight and keeps eating to make themselves feel better, but can't break that. And you're like, the money you're spending, but the money you're spending in which to feel as bad, and it's just, I said that to you the other day. I was reaching for something between my legs. Mine's out the gutter. And I was in the car, and I was able just to in and out. And it was when I came back up, I was like, you didn't moan once. You didn't make a noise. There was no involuntary. So it's little things like that, because I just thought, I'm actually a bit young to be dragging a leg behind me. And
But those are the things that are the non-scale victories. We get a bit obsessed by the scales, but actually when you look at the success, so say one week you don't lose weight, you've done everything right, but the scales haven't been your friend. That's another reason why people go, what's the point? I'm not going to do this anymore. But actually, realising the little things, I can now do this. I don't breathe heavy when I run up the stairs, or I can run up the stairs. I can do this. Those things are the huge. That to be able to, I had a member the other day that said, I'm not using my inhaler anymore. That is huge, right? To think that you needed help to breathe is huge, and now you don't. Does it matter what that scale says? At the end of it, that's a gauge. The fact that you can breathe better is huge.
And the fact of the matter is, you're in the situation where you can't breathe because of what you're eating, or the amount you're eating, should I say? That's
it's really powerful. But when you were talking about this addiction thing, it's interesting, because most of us eat, and I know for myself, it's we talk about internal hunger, which is proper hunger, when you're hungry, you've got hunger pangs and a headache, and it's 4 to 6 hours, and you think, I need to eat. But external hunger is where you've got that hunger that is emotional. So somebody's upset you, and you think, I'll show them. I'll have a bun. I'll sort that out. And, you kind of get into that mentality of, I need something to feel better. And that then becomes a habit. So that every time, and a lot of it, for me, it goes back to childhood, like, have some sweets. You've fallen over, you're great, have some sweets, or have a lolly or whatever. Then that just carries on as being your sticky plaster. Somebody's upset me. I'll eat this. I'll feel better.
There's an interesting book, and it's to do with the fact that we use food as a plaster for, in terms of, so after a funeral, we go and eat. A birthday is a celebration meal in order to tempt or bribe a child into doing chores. Well, if you get that, you'll get a bag of Haribo, you'll get this, that, and the next thing. It's constant. Yeah. It's absolutely constant, as opposed to thinking, the reason we're having this is because obviously it's time that we eat, this is nutritionally balanced, and this is good for us. Because food can be a very social thing. But then on the other hand, you're right, it can be a dirty secret. Yeah. I mean, I remember used to being fascinated by, we were, and I hate to brag, we were the first family in the street to get Sky. And And that was many years ago. And I remember these people that binged, and they were hiding food in their beds. And oh yeah, you were like,
it's sad. And you think those feelings that you said about how you describe yourself. I can't look at myself. That feeling of guilt that they have got, from doing that. It's sad how food dominates everything. But even though we've said all this, I've got a 13-year-old Eddie, and I can feel myself doing it. Oh, Eddie, have you had a tough day at school? I've got you this, and I know I'm doing it.
Sweet treat.
Yeah, but we do it, and I know it. And even though I do this job, I still do it. And I'm really conscious of it. But his schooler now, and I think this is the other thing, going back to what you were saying, Jo, about why is it that we still feel that it's a diet and people still hark back to that. Schools now. So when Eddie comes back from school, when they're doing science, he's learning about nutrition. Mm-hmm. So he was asking me, Mum, in your job, do you know about this? And do you know this, this, and this? And it was fascinating. And just looking at the stuff he's learning in science. And then he does, when he still does cooking. I still call it cooking. They don't call it that anymore. But he was like, no, it had. And I was like, why don't you cook this? This is easy. No, Mum, it's got to incorporate like carbohydrate. I have to have this. And so they're being taught. Yeah. So I think that he's more educated. So I think he is more educated to make better choices.
And I think that's interesting, actually, isn't it? Because schools are getting much better in that regard, and understanding it's basically back to cause and effect. What things you put in your body, what the result will be, and it is, excess of sugar or salt or any of these kind of things, or an imbalance between carbohydrates and proteins but people don't learn that. I don't remember learning what the difference between a carbohydrate and a protein when I was growing up. It was just food, and some tasted nicer than others. And usually the stuff that was sweet and bad for you tasted nicer than the stuff that was
if you didn't eat all your tea, you were hungry.
Yeah.
But there's also, we hear this a lot from members as well, especially those who had parents or grandparents who were in the war, where there was a ration, the rations and everything. And so eat all of that food, you can't waste food. And that's carried down generations, hasn't it? We're only just learning to come out of that. You don't have to eat everything on your plate. Oh, I don't like wasting food. So I feel like I've got to eat it.
But then be mindful of what you're cooking and the amounts that you put on. So I think that's where because it was always, I was always threatened that with my mother, because my mother always thought she was a good cook, but she actually really wasn't. And it was like, you eat that. I don't want mince and chips.
Did you have the thing? I was always, you're not getting down from the table until that's finished.
I think that's the reason I don't like fish, is because I was forced to finish a plate of kedgeree, which just made me feel sick.
Very middle class.
I think you'll find aristocratic, darling.
A brunch dish.
Cooked by Nanny. Anyway, no. But it is, isn't it? But also talking about the war and the rationing, I mean, I'm not that old, but, that was the introduction of the pencil skirt, because people were pencil thin because, of food rationing and,
Had a big impact on society, didn't it? And I think that generations, we're only just learning now how to be different and how to say, what you're going to do, you've got leftover chicken nuggets that you charged us had, you don't want to waste them, but actually it is a waste if you're eating it yourself, because it's making you miserable. Then if you're not your best self, how does that fit with your family? So it's interesting.
Although I always remember, I don't know if it was Katie Price or one of Liberty X, and they were like, kids leftovers. So what I do is, as opposed to putting them in the bin, because I'll go into the bin, I put washing up liquid over them. And you think, do you not have a dog you could give them to? What a load of nonsense. Just stop it. Yeah. What would you like on your Ryvita? Very liquid, please. And a bit of balsamic glaze. How many points is that? Jo, can you see yourself doing anything other than this?
Do you know what? I really can't. I just, before WW, before I got ill, I used to be a sales rep. I've done marketing. It was very, very pressured kind of job with figures. And I've always been that kind of person that likes to put myself under pressure. But this was a whole, when I'd been ill and I had to give up my career, it's like, where do I start? What career am I going to do? And my husband, Simon, actually said to me, the only thing that you can do is WW, because that's the only thing you ever talk about, right? It's Weight Watchers. It's the only thing you talk about these days since you've lost weight. And so I said, do you think I could apply for that job? And he said, I think you'd absolutely be brilliant. So I did. And it's just taken over. And now it's like, it's become so part because I'm following the journey myself. I'm following other people's journey, but the buzz that you get from seeing people changing their life. And just that, you know, like I was saying, Debbie today, she did the Great North Run on Sunday. I mean, that's amazing that she went out there and won a half marathon, and that just gives me such a brilliant feeling. So I actually think that WW are going to be around, you know, like this is the, in the long run, we're going to be here. And I think that people are changing their perceptions. So I want to be there to see how all this plays out, because I think it's brilliant.
That's an interesting question that you've asked, Jo. That would you ever consider becoming a Weight Watchers coach?
No.
Okay. Right, no. That's that answer.
I don't.
I feel apologetic that I've even asked you.
No, no, and I don't think my members would like me.
I don't know. There are, do you know, and this gets tricky. We do have members. I've got members who go, Jo, you're too nice to me. I need you to shout at me. And I'm not shouting at you. It's not how it works. You know, it's interesting. Different people, you know, want a different approach. But I think that's what it is about being a coach, is trying to tap into that person and finding out, you know, like how.
Well, it was funny because I remember being at a workshop and this woman who was clearly at it, right? And the coach, who was fantastic, was going, oh, what do you think you've done? And I just wanted to say, she's eaten everything. That's, you know, that's it. There's a queue. We're all tired. It's really hot. You know, can you, you know, just say, right, okay, that's it. No, I just don't think I'd be particularly empathetic. I'd be like, you know what you've done.
You have to have the empathy. You have to break. And I think that's why I'm so honest about my journey. So if I'm not perfect, and I wish I was, but I'm not. And if I have had a slip up, then I will be really honest about it. But then, you know, you share the good times, you share when it's not so good. And I think people just want to see reality, and just to see, yes, I'm at my goal weight. Is it easy? Sometimes it's not. It's when you have to work on all the time. And
perfection is overrated, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad you've been able to remove your jacket from that sacred peg. For goodness sake. Jo, it has been so nice speaking to you in a very different capacity.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I've got one further question. So, but in terms of your Weight Watchers journey, and obviously you have Jo as a personal coach, and you are rapidly getting towards your target of where you want to be. Is there? So you get to that point, and then does the personal coaching stop, or does it just become less regular, or what happens?
In our case, no. For we just
legal reasons.
No, not legal reasons at all. Something, yes. I know she was a shoplifter as a child. I'm joking, I don't know. You could well be. I just hope if it was food stuff, she stuck within your point. No, we've pretty much got the next year together. Yeah, which I have to say, all joking aside, I'm really looking forward to, because the thing is as well, when it's someone who's been through it and someone who understands, and empathy, and obviously we get on and all that kind of thing, it's really nice just having the sounding board and the kind of anchoring. And I'm not saying that you are unable to do that on your own. For example, I have a load of friends who are on keto. I'm on keto. It's like, okay, why are you doing Domino's 2 for Tuesday? Because those look like bready pizzas to me. And then they're like, oh, but I'm off it. And then the thing with this, you're neither on or off. You're just basically paying attention to what you're doing. And if you've got support, and we set goals and various other things, so it will be interesting when we cease as regular contact. But bringing Lorraine back into the mix, she hasn't had as regular contact. She's a gold member. She's been doing everything. And I think that's the thing, that you just get into a habit of it. And it's not hardship. You know, it's not difficult. And it was like when I was telling you I was in London, I wasn't putting everything in I wasn't sitting in the ivy going, but it was the fact that I was guesstimating stuff, because you have, well, in my case, a rudimentary knowledge of how it all works. And I'd proven by guesstimating and actually not weighing, I'd still lost weight. Could have lost a bit more if I'd laid off the Aperol, but, you know, it was hot.
It was hot, and it was what you needed at that time.
Absolutely.
It did work for you. And then, you know, I do the personal coaching, but then we've got our WW Zoom, so you can do a Zoom workshop at any time and chat in with other people. And then you've got face-to-face work. You can work it whichever way works for you. Yeah. But at the moment, this is working for you. We're doing good stuff.
Yeah. No, it's
and he's looking bloody marvellous.
Not in this light, but yes. Oh, the producer's getting angry.
No,
Yeah,
he's upset
it's
that
because
we're
this freight
criticising.
crate's from B&M Home Stores and he doesn't have the receipt to take it back. Jo, I will speak to you on Monday, although we're not allowed to say days of the week or
Well,
time
we
of the
can say
day.
Mon- we can say
say
Monday.
It's Monday 2023. I will see you on Monday and thank you so much for joining us.
Lovely to meet
worries.
you, Jo.
Thank you. See you later.
Big kiss, Jo. Bye.
Bye.
Bye, Jo.